Hello, everyone. I hope you had a nice lunch if you had already. Let's see. I'll wait for a few seconds till everyone is in. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is the second series of Ask Me Anything. Last month, we talked about how to help children throughout the summer. Now the summer is almost ending. Well, not almost, but we have 6 more weeks before school resumes. And today we're gonna talk about the executive functional skills. I'm gonna be offering along the way throughout the school year, until the end of the year, different series of different topics each month. So I really hope you can join me next month too. So I'll get started. For those who are here, welcome. I see again new, not faces, new people who are in this webinar. So welcome. And I see other people who already know that I've been working with. And I see some friends as well. I'm glad to have them all. Today we're going to talk about the executive functional skills. So I'm not sure if everyone knows what that means. Can you raise your hand if you ever heard of that word before? Okay. Do you know how to raise your hand? Nice. Thanks. Before we get started, actually, I want to make sure that everyone knows how to raise their hand and then how to ask questions, because that's the idea. I'm going to give you just like 10 seconds for you to start like writing the questions that you may have for today, and I will be answering the questions in the order that they were given. So while I kind of get started in terms of describing you a little bit about what executive functionals mean, as I see just a few hands raised on, then I'll start just jumping into answering your questions, which is the reason why you're here today. So executive functional skills are cognitive skills. I mean, they are skills in the brain. They are mostly in the prefrontal cortex. They are one of the last developed in the development of the human brain, and pretty much it's kind of the new kid on the block in the neuroscience and education. I mean, the new kid for the last 10 years, but thanks to neuroscience and all the research about the brain, we kind of know a lot about how our brain works, and that's why we get to know a lot about how the executive functionals work. Some people would say that those skills are the director of the orchestra in the brain, or that they are the boss of the brain, right? So typically, even if you are the smartest person in the world, if you don't know how to make if you don't know how to make your brain work efficiently, nothing's going to really happen in terms of how to be proficient in your life, how to be happy with what you do, and how to fulfill your life, right? So typically, if you see and you think that the executive functional skills are the boss in your brain, the main job of that boss, your boss, would be to tell your brain what to do, when to do it, and how much effort to put on things. So that's why it is so much important. So it enables you not just cognitive processes, but also emotional processes. I'm going to share with you just a slide for you to kind of have a better idea. Like, visuals work for me, and I guess it works for most people. Start from the beginning. So typically, there are many different executive functional skills within us. Definitely, we have a profile of strengths and weaknesses. We all have since we're kids. In the early childhoods, as you see, typically they're more involved in response inhibition in terms of how well you can control your emotions, and that's why all the tantruming, the brain is not already developed at that age. But I mean, you can start working on those skills in working memory, how much information you can retain, how much attention you can sustain in an activity, how much you can start like, and how deep and how long you stay in a task, and mental flexibility, how fast are you with transitioning. And then through adolescence, there are some organizational skills, goal setting, time management skills, and planning skills that can be put in order. So just for you to know, there are many, many different skills in which the brain, the boss of the brain can help you with, like, take control actually of your life, right? So I would like to start reading out some questions and then get started. So let's see the first one. It says, I have a 6-year-old going to first grade. She needs to practice her writing, still not understandable. How do I make her enjoy her practice? Try writing songs, stories, but she's not engaged in practicing. All right, if you think about the executive functional skills and developmentally in your 6-year-old brain, I would say that one skill that is persistent to the task, like task initiation and how you can persist and finish a task, could be something that definitely your child might need practice on. But at the same time, if that is not something that she's good at, typically kids wouldn't, even adults, we don't want to do things that we're not really good at, right? And it's kind of a circle. If you're not good at something and if you don't practice it, then you're not getting good at it, and it's a negative circle. If you are good at it, you want to keep on, practicing because you enjoy it. You see that you are successful in that. So that allows you then to keep on improving in that area. So I would say that definitely finding a strength and an interest of her would be something that, and it seems that you're already doing, right? You've been trying to writing songs and stories. If she's not engaged, I would first try to see why she's not engaged. Maybe she's having really a tough time in her fine motor skills, and that's pretty much why she's not engaged. And then she needs some extra practice first in her fine motor skills before heading into the specific writing. And an occupational therapist, for example, could be a good person to work on that. So I would start off with simple tasks, like lazing can be typically things that you can help her to improve the fine motor skills, and many other, working with clay. And then you can start like working on, let's say, on letters in clay, and then move on to the writing of a letter. That's one thing. Then if we think about executive functional skills applied to this particular practice, the use of the clock, like time management. Maybe if you give her like a full page that she has to write it down, she will see the full page and she will just turn off, right? There's no way I'm gonna just do this because it's too long. So I will start like giving her like chunks, like smaller pieces. So I will start with one word and then another word, and then don't have her practice too many things and too long. So maybe you can set up an alarm and start with 1 minute per day. And then you can ask her to do 2 minutes and then 3 minutes, right? And eventually then you can get to a full page. So that would be my recommendation. Another question, and that's for an older girl. My daughter is now 12 years old and she still has a lot of trouble getting motivated to complete tasks. So we're in the same boat, I think, with a 6-year-old. Is there anything you can recommend to help her other than my harassing her? Yes. So let me share with you something that I've been working for a long time with the little ones and the older kids. And it's pretty much, if you think about, again, how to make someone be willing to do something, I would start off with, first of all, as parents, one is how much help are we typically giving our child with the tasks that we are asking them to do. So if we've been the typical parent that we've been helping, our child do everything, and that means if you are helping her, let's say, like a 12-year-old, if you're still helping her make her bed and do like chores, and if she doesn't have like any specific chore to do at home, or if she's expecting you to do everything and you actually do it, pretty much she's used to have someone, you know, helping her. And that's now kind of allowing her to do things independently. That's one thing. So I would just think about how much help or not you're giving her, and then try to kind of reduce that help, like in general. The other thing that I've seen that it gets really good with kids, and especially, I guess it's been always like that, but especially in these uncertainty times, is to have a daily schedule. If kids know, even if they're little, like it will be good for the 6-year-old or for the 12-year-old, and even like for us and adults. If we plan our day ahead, if we know what we're gonna be doing and what it would be expected from her to do along the day, then when it comes to doing something, they will know. They will know that that's the time to do it. So let me share an example. I'm gonna share with you the screen, and then we'll go with the specific about that. So if you see here, right, I would suggest starting like from tomorrow to start making like an organizing with her, not for her, like you're gonna do it together, a daily schedule, right? So for the 12-year-old, I would definitely set up times, and that is gonna help her with time management and planning and organization. We're working on those 3 executive functional skills now. If you work on that, then the motivation is gonna come along. So for example, this is typically a daily schedule for a child who was in school, but you can also do it as for now, and also think about specific tasks that you would like her to do. Maybe it would be not homework or school, but you would like her to practice now in summer in some academic work, right? And maybe she's not motivated to do so. So organize the daily schedule, the daily routine with her, write it down with her, write down the specific times allocations that you think, and both think that are gonna happen. Do that, like she wakes up and you do it together. And then keep, like after each task, have her review if she completed, and have her actually like check that she just completed it. And then before one activity to the other, I would give her some prompting. Hey, like we have 5 minutes left. Remember that now it's gonna be like lunchtime, right? And then if she's not willing to do specific tasks that you're actually asking her to do, that's why she's not motivated to do some schoolwork. Just remind her, hey, like remember that at 2:35 we have this homework, and then when you're done, you're gonna have, and try to choose throughout the day, after she does something that she doesn't really enjoy or she's not motivated to do so, something right away that she likes doing. So when you're working with a daily schedule with her, just think about that. Okay, so you finished your homework, and now just something that you would like to do. So again, when she would be likely be more motivated towards doing any particular task that you're asking her to do if she knows what is going to happen like afterwards, and it's going to be something that she's actually willing to do. If you do that every day, and then she checks, every single thing throughout the day, first, you are giving her the chance to help her organize what's going to happen. When we do that, also anxiety reduces if, there's you have some anxiety issues too, because they know what's going to happen, right? And that reduces a lot of anxiety. Motivation also gets better because they kind of, if you did it together, she agreed on this, right? So if she feels that she's in power, that she chose what to do, and you also actually remind her, like, remember that we did it together and you chose to do these particular tasks at this particular time, right? She will be more willing to do so rather than if you are just asking her to do it. So I think the key is to, again, like to work it out together instead of you like harassing her to do things, and have things organized into a visual schedule and check off things. Eventually, if she does this over a week or two, you're gonna see that her motivation towards doing things that she doesn't really like doing, she's gonna be better at that. So let's see, let's go back to another question. Let's see. Okay, with the little one, I have one question that he's 4. He has a really hard time um, transitioning with one activity to the other. I mean, you're also like harassing him and telling him like what to do, and he just seems not to listen. So that can happen, especially with the little ones, but it also happens a lot with older kids, right? Um, I would say that, first of all, for a 4-year-old, just remember that there are certain skills in the brain that are still not developed. So if you are asking your child to do something that he's not ready to do so, it's most likely that he won't be able to do it. So then it would look like that he doesn't want to do it. So for example, if you're asking him to go to, I don't know, if he's playing and you're asking him to go for lunch, if he's involved in something that he enjoys the most, you would need to give some prompting, right? Because shifting from one thing to the other, it's going to be a little bit harder. So maybe, again, you're going to have like the reminders like, hey, you have 3 minutes, you have 2 minutes. And one particular thing that works for the little ones, I mean, for everyone, especially with the little ones, when you're asking your child to do something, just don't yell from one room to the other, hey, like it's time for lunch, and just pretend, you know, the child to just go quickly and join lunch. I mean, some kids do, and that's fantastic, but most children don't. Most children don't. It's much better to communicate with your child. I mean, he's going to be more attentive if you go next to him or her, you lower down to her height, and you say, hey, look me to the eye. And then you are like within the same height and having a conversation, eye to eye. If you do that and you ask the child to go for lunch, it's most likely that he's going to do it rather than just saying it from another room. That works pretty good with the little ones. And then with the older ones, like if they seem not to be listening, I would ask like, in which way can I say it so that you can actually do it? So again, making a partnership with your child in terms of how you can communicate better, it's going to help your child be able to follow instructions much better than just giving orders and expecting the other person to follow. So for example, for a 10-year-old, if you're asking that child to go for lunch and he seems to just be focusing on doing, I don't know, playing a video game or something, and then he has a tough time transitioning to actually what you're asking him to do, I would say, okay, like it seems that I've been like asking you to do like 3 times, then I start like yelling at you and you're not listening. In which way should I ask you to do it? In which way do you think it's going to be more efficient? So some kids actually come up with ideas like, hey, like if you tap me while I'm like just with a video game, that it's going to help me. If you set up an alarm and then it pops up and it, I can hear it, it's going to be more efficient. But ask your child and get those strategies aligned and set them up together. That it's going to get your kids motivated to do more things rather than you just providing orders in the way that you seem that they should be working. What else? Let's see, another question. Study skills. Definitely execution functional skills in terms of how you can think about how you learn is one of the most, I think, execution functional skills top priority within these children, right? Typically in school, they teach content and they teach what to do in math, reading, comprehension, science, but they barely teach about how actually you learn how to learn. So all what is called like the meta-cognitive processes are really essential for everyone to be lifelong learners. If we are conscious about how we learn, then we can apply that knowledge, that strategy into another setting or another type of learning. So for example, I would suggest with your child nowadays that at least in the last 3 months, you've been really involved in their education. We will see, what the future brings like, but it's most likely that parents nowadays are gonna get much more involved in the children's education, whether you like it or not. So I would suggest helping your child provide that what is called like metacognitive process. So how can you do that? When you are, let's say, reading with your child, and you kind of ask him or her questions about the story, right? So you are working on reading comprehension. I would ask, like, how did you remember that story? And then some kids would say, well, because I remember like these words, that they were like, you know, I highlighted these words and those were the most important ones, so that's why I remember. Other kids might say, well, I was just making a picture in, you know, in my brain, and was just visualizing, like, that's called like proper name, like making a picture, like trying to imagine what the story was about. So those are typically two different strategies, right, in terms of how to comprehend a text. So that is good. You know, it's a really good process for the kids to think about how they actually learn, because then they will be able to use it another time. But sometimes we actually, if you don't go through that like cognitive process of thinking about how we think, we just do it automatically, and sometimes we don't even know if that strategy is efficient or not, right? So I would definitely also pay attention to that, thinking about how we learn, and help your kid actually do so. Let's see. Okay, another question that it's coming here is, okay, how can I help, okay, a 13-year-old be more focused in school? Yes, that's also part of all the executive functional skills, right? How to be more self-aware of yourself, how to focus, how to pay attention, how to self-regulate. It happens to be like that all those different skills are connected in the brain. So that's why sometimes kids, let's say with ADHD, that they kind of focus, then it has some impact on their self-regulation behaviorally, and they're all over the place. And that's pretty much why, like, they're kind of connected in the brain. So I would say with focus, it's different than maybe any other skills that we're talking about. Definitely the brain is a muscle. So I always say that if we go to the gym once a week, most likely we won't get our muscles toned. If we go twice a week or 3 times a week for 3 months consistently, it's most likely that we will see some changes in our body. Well, it's the same with the brain. This brain is a muscle, so the more you practice steadily in a consistent manner, the better you're gonna get at a particular skill, right? So when you focus on with like paying attention, it's pretty much the same. Of course, if we're talking about someone who has a diagnosis, that could be something different. But typically, if you just want to work, I mean, and it can both work, you know, for someone with a diagnosis and someone without the specific diagnosis, how to focus and how to improve the attention. I would say that definitely keeping practice on that. So for example, as I said, with a 6-year-old with the writing, I will start with small steps towards then adding more time or more cognitive demanding skills. So for the 13-year-old, if she has a hard time focusing in a story, or when she's like listening to the teacher, you have to work on both the auditory memory, I mean, like just how well she can retain listening to things, or how well she can retain at looking at things, right? Like visual memory or visual processing. Some people are really good at one thing and not really good at the other one, and vice versa. And some people don't have like a preference. But I will start again, like this metacognitive process, knowing about yourself, about your learning. I would ask her, like, if you are in the class, or if you're, you know, listening to the teacher, and if she's providing some things on the whiteboard, to remember that more, or do you remember better if you just listen to what she's saying? So first of all, she would have to identify how she can focus better, in which way, and find ways to keep on strengthening that strength, and then find ways to kind of work on the weakness. So for example, if she says, well, if I listen to the teacher and I just listen to her, after 2 minutes, I just lose the chain of thought from what she's saying and start thinking about whatever. And then when I come back, I have no clue what she's saying. So typically at that age, that's why like note taking is that so important, because if you're actually doing something with your body, actually the action of writing things down help you out be more focused, because you're actually doing something, right? Than just be in a passive listener. So at that age, I would definitely recommend note taking. And then there's a huge way of like ways in you can, she can learn how for note taking, but that would be one particular strategy that I would use in terms of focusing when she is just listening. Let's see. So we have, I'm just jumping from one thing to the other. Definitely, I will be happy to kind of go more in depth in one of those things if you want to, more in a personal meeting. If you expect chores for your kids and they are not following through them, how would you make them meant to keep it? Allowance? Okay, that's a good one too. So with chores, and with anything that kids are not motivated to do so, in the motivation world, you have like, it's good to identify like two types of motivation, right? It could be intrinsic motivation, which means that you are motivated to do things that you like and they just come easily for yourself. And then when it's come extrinsic motivation, it's when you need something outside of you to get motivated to do things. Typically with chores, I would say that most kids are not motivated. They don't have that intrinsic motivation to do those things. So most kids might need some extrinsic motivation. So the way that I would do it, but again, I wouldn't just end up like having everything as what it's called, like giving them like rewards just to do everything. But I would set up some specific rules throughout the house and some things that, okay, if you have a contract, and behavioral contracts work really well with this. If you have a contract and you have the expectations or what are the responsibilities for your child to do, so I would list them and then I would work again in that contract with her, not for her. And you say, okay, what are the things that you think like, you can help with the house? And then you make a list. Okay, so how and when are you gonna do it? So again, like planning and organization. And then she's gonna have that daily schedule and she's gonna be doing that throughout the schedule when she's gonna do those chores. So again, it's the boss brain helping things decide when, what, and how much effort to do it. So she's gonna decide when to do it, how much time she's gonna do it, and then eventually, yes, you can come up with a reward system, right? So let's say if she does all the 3 chores that she was expected to do, then she can have like 1 point, and by the end of the week, if she gets 5 points, then she can have a treat. So you can think about, I tend to like things, it could be allowance, it really depends on the family, or it can also be more experiences. So I would like to say, okay, like if you earn this, then maybe you can get to choose what we're gonna be cooking tonight. Or we can order some food that you love. Or we can watch a movie of your preference. Or you can just, like I would prefer to more rewards through experiences rather than allowance. But again, allowance works fine in your family. That's perfect. So that's what I would do. But you need consistency for any single strategy that you're thinking about applying. Just remember, the brain is a muscle and you need to work it out in an efficient and a consistent way. In the research of how we change behaviors, and that's typically like how we know if we are training our brain to change a behavior, to change a habit, we need time. Anything that's gonna happen just in 1 or 2 days. Typically, those changes happen within the 3 to 6 months period. So I'm not saying that you would have to wait 6 months to get your child actually do a chore, but what I say is that at the beginning, he or she is gonna need the most help from you, that external person, to be working with her along the way in small steps until finally her brain is gonna just automate that process and will do it naturally, right? So instead of you at the beginning, you were gonna have this behavioral contract, put it like in a consistent manner, doing the reward system at least for a month. And maybe after some time, she's gonna get used to do it, right? So the brain actually like wired in a way that she's used to do those things. And then you don't need to have that behavioral contract all her life. Eventually then she's gonna do it by herself. I have many other questions, but we're running out of time. It's 2 o'clock already. I will answer like one more because I want to, make sure that we are on time for everyone. And then the rest, definitely, I will be happy to answer privately. And also, I want to let you know that I'm getting ready for next month a mini course, a 6-week mini course for executive functional skills in children, and it's mostly for parents, and it's gonna be kind of a way, it's gonna be like a mini course and a coaching process. So each week you're gonna be sent like videos and some specific challenges or homework for your child to do with you, and that is gonna help you like work throughout these 6 weeks. Get, and you will definitely see in those 6 weeks some improvement in your child's executive functional skills. So I'm gonna keep you posted when that is ready. I'm getting things ready for a month. And then if you wanna participate in what is called like the beta step, in which you're gonna be like the first one to use that course, we'll be happy to share that information with you. So the last one, for 8-year-old, let me see. Okay. Something with problem solving. Okay, your child gets stuck, right, in what to do. He can barely choose between 2 things, or like what to do next. I would put that in terms of what is called problem solving skills. And that means that your child, I'm not sure how he has been raised, so far, but at this point, if he's at his age, he needs definitely to have the ability to set up the problem and then try to look at that problem and find different options of how to solve the problem, and then choose that one option and put it into action. So for example, if he's always not sure what to do and he cannot really choose between one thing or the other, and he's asking you to do it for him, I would say, okay, I would kind of, again, like go through that process with him, and try to help him say out loud the process that he's making, through that step. So for example, let's say if he doesn't know what to do, if he wants to go swimming or go to the park, right? That is an easy one, but even for some kids that could be tough because they want to do both and they don't know what to do first. So I would kind of, again, like ask him questions about, okay, why can't you choose? Like, can you give me one pros and cons of going to the park, of going swimming? So he can kind of think about the process and say it out loud, and then say, okay, like, can you, after you go through the pros and cons, if you can choose one thing from one of those options, which one would you do? And let's try it out, right? And that in that process, you're gonna be helping your child making decisions, that they are small decisions now, but eventually when he's an adolescent, when he's like a young adult, making decisions, it's gonna be one of the most, I guess, important life skills that you're gonna help your child with. So start from, since they're young, in having them give the power, I would say, in making their own decisions, right? But guiding them through the process, and then having them like take risks, and you being, side by side, and then reviewing that what mistakes happened, and like making mistakes are good for you, because that allows you to kind of jump and see and then learn from those mistakes. So most kids who cannot really, that they're scared of choosing about things to do, or they have difficulties in solving problems, most kids are the ones who are scared of failing. So making a lot of mistakes and modeling how you make your own mistakes, that can also help your child. All right, so thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope it was helpful. And definitely next month, we're gonna be talking about, in the Ask Me Anything series, about learning, how you can support your child's learning. We're gonna start school or online learning or in school. It will depend, as for now, in terms of what you choose and what's gonna happen here in the area that you're living. And I would like you to ask all your questions about learning and how to support learning in your children. Thank you so much again, and I hope you really have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.